This 14-year-old girl's argument completely just destroys John Oliver's argument.
Because at 14 years old, even I can see that the current rules aren't working for biological girls or transgender athletes.
John Oliver goes on this rant on his show.
Regarding youth sports, there were a lot of attack ads on that one issue, and it was frustrating to see the Harris campaign fail to formulate a response.
It's really easy to win this debate. I'll do it right now.
Especially because it's pretty easy to do. Watch, I'll do it for you right now. As we've discussed before, there are vanishingly few trans girls competing in high schools anywhere.
I raced against a transgender athlete in the 1600-meter race.
We're looking at an example right now. So when John Oliver says, well, there's no examples, this is very rare, there's no harm is actually being done, here it is.
Even if there were more, trans kids, like all kids, vary in athletic ability, and there is no evidence they pose any threat to safety or fairness.
And every single point he makes is so easily disproved. A 14-year-old does it, and that's what we're looking at right now.
It is very weird for you to be so focused on this subject. And finally, if you genuinely want to address the biggest concern for most girls who play high school sports, you'd be less worried about this and more about the creepy assistant volleyball coach who keeps liking their posts on Instagram.
Who's that guy? Let's talk about it. Who is this individual that you're talking about, John Oliver? Because I can point to specifics. Can you?
In May of this year, I ran in the Kashmir Junior Olympics.
14-year-old freshman in high school takes to the podium to talk about her experiences in the Junior Olympics where she competed against a biological male.
I had heard of this happening around our country, but I never expected to encounter it firsthand.
Yeah, you don't believe it until you see it yourself. My first year of teaching, I thought the very same thing when I had a student in my journalism class. She broke her arm in a game. She wanted to write an article about it. I'm not sure how I feel about this because the player that broke my arm with their stick was a biological male. My other teammate broke their leg to the same player. So I would like to write an article about this. This is something that is important to me. I said, go for it. So she went around and tried to get interviews couldn't get a single adult in that building to say a word.
All of the runners had lined up to race. I noticed that this athlete was built very differently than all of the other girls. It wasn't until we were on the podium that I heard the commotion of upset adults and kids.
This 14-year-old did not know that this was a biological male until she stepped upon the podium and heard the commotion in the audience.
That is when I heard that the athlete that was standing next to me on the first place podium was a biological boy. My heart sank and I felt extremely discouraged. I felt like all my hard work that I had put in throughout the year didn't matter and that it was just going to be forgotten. My family and I spoke up about how unfair this was. We didn't speak up about how unfair this was because I didn't get first and didn't win.
She's trying to make the important point that she's not speaking up about this because she feels like she did not win, and this is about winning. This is about a deeper moral issue.
We spoke up because boys racing against girls at this level of competition isn't right and it isn't fair.
And there is no evidence they pose any threat to safety or fairness.
It felt like we were being told to shut up, stop complaining, and just deal with it.
It is very weird for you to be so focused on this subject.
All of those biological girls sitting up there next to me had worked just as hard as I had throughout the entire season. But at that moment, our hard work and talent did not matter.
This is not just about her.
This is why I'm speaking up. Our female athlete voices need to be heard because we are the ones that this is personally affecting.
Yeah, it is the response of the adults that is most frustrating, I think.
Adults have attacked my family and me for speaking up for fairness and protection of biological girls in sports.
Notice how it's the adults that do the attacking.
Emily and I have been told by adults that we are transphobic, that I am a sore loser, and that I value winning more than a human life.
Something especially despicable about that accusation. To say, no, you must be silent, or you're essentially one step away from a murderer.
We have also been told that it will be our fault and that we will be the ones responsible if this transgender athlete takes their life.
What about the toll that's being taken upon this individual, this girl, or her teammates? What about the student that I saw with the broken arm? I mean, think that this could not add up to the point where one of them would break?
I feel like the same people who are attacking female athletes for speaking up do not care about the mental tolls and struggles this is also taking on female athletes.
Why do we value the mental health of one subset of people more so than all the other female competitors?
I have learned so much going through this experience. My biggest takeaway is that allowing boys to compete in girls' sports isn't working, and it is not fair. It isn't fair and it isn't working for biological girls, and it isn't fair and it isn't working for transgender athletes.
It's not working for the biological females, it's not working for the trans females. It's not fair to anyone because the trans female will always have this sense of people questioning their win because it's valid to question that win.
The things I have heard about this transgender athlete and me are awful and damaging. I am only 14 and I shouldn't have to deal with these kinds of adult issues.
We have adults playing along and treating it as though the very fabric of reality can be manipulated, but it's not healthy for anyone.
But here I am, speaking up, hoping that adults will step up and do what is right.
It's a 14-year-old with remarkably more wisdom and grace than John Oliver, a grown adult. That is sad to see.